ringside in support of Bradshaw. Toward the end, Benoit would have JBL in the crossface, leading to Kurt Angle getting in the ring to interfere and break the hold, resulting in a disqualification. Then from there, a brawl would break out between the SmackDown Invaders and the ECW Originals, with the ECW Originals coming out on top. So that was the backstory to ECW One Night Stand 2005. So let's get into the show here. This was, of course, as I said here, One Night Stand, the first One Night Stand. This would be done by World Wrestling Entertainment. It's ECW One Night Stand, because this was, supposed to be like an ECW reunion show and like a ECW pay-per-view, but this was done by the WWE on June 12th, 2005. So we're almost at the 15-year mark here, which is really cool. So that's another reason why I wanted to do this show. And then this was done from the Hammerstein Ballroom, the Manhattan Center in New York City, in front of 2,500 fans. That would be the attendance figure. Not a very small, or not a very big venue, but, it's a typical, ECW crowd. And this is by far, outside of the arena in Philly, it's now known as the 2300 Arena, the old ECW arena. Outside of that, this is by far the best place they could have done the show in.
Yeah.
But also, this probably was the best place to do the show in, because, there was the ECW arena, but in terms of a production standpoint, it would have been really hard to get the show out of there. So this is a much better building for that kind of event and show. And then 325,000 would be the buy rate number for this show, a big number for this.
Huge number, especially for the year it was in.
Yeah, this would actually be I believe this would actually do I'd have to look at it. But this is definitely one of the higher buy rates of the year. The highest was, of course, WrestleMania 21.
Yeah.
As Mania is every year. Mania is basically always obviously the number one show for buy rates, and that's the highest number they do every year. But I don't know if it was the second highest. I don't know if it outdid the Rumble and other ones, but I don't want to say that without actually having the facts straight. So I'm just gonna say it was one of the bigger numbers they did all year. Many people try to buy the event through WWE's website, WWE.com, but the website got shut down because there wasn't enough bandwidth available. So then the commentators for the show would be Joey Styles and Mick Foley, and the theme song would be Bodies by Drowning Pool.
Let the bodies hit the
All right, so here we are. To open the show, we'd have the voice of ECW, Joey Styles, make his way to the ring, receiving a great ovation from the fans in attendance, as he deservedly so. Yeah. And he'd start out by saying his famous catchphrase, "Oh my God!"
Oh my God!
And then he'd welcome everyone to ECW One Night Stand. Then he'd introduce his broadcast partner for the evening, who turned out to be Mick Foley, who would come out.
Legend.
Yes, who'd come out wearing a Cactus Jack shirt, which of course he was Cactus Jack in ECW, and he'd come out to his Cactus Jack theme song. So then we'd have the classic ECW theme song play, along with a montage of different clips from the past to make up the intro. And then we'd have the opening contest being a singles match between Lance Storm with Dawn Marie in his corner versus Chris Jericho. Lionheart Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
He'd even come out with his Lionheart gear and his jacket.
Yeah. Lance Storm didn't have that stupid-ass ponytail, though.
Oh, yeah, that we saw back when we were watching Barely Legal 97. Mm-hmm. Perfect match to open the show. Really good match, actually. It only got in 7 minutes, 27 seconds, I believe. But still, pretty good way to start it.
Well, the problem is, for this pay-per-view, I think it was less about how good the matches were, and they just wanted to find a way to fit as many people in as they could.
Yeah, and it's just a feel-good reunion show. It's something for the fans, and they probably never thought they'd ever get to have an opportunity with all these guys ever again, in this setting. Mm-hmm. So, and it was like closure for the stars of the past too. And as it was pointed out, by Van Damme, he was just naming off the stars that they had in the WWE at the time who were ECW alumni. So they definitely had enough guys to do a show off of, and of course they had to invite the other stars back as well. But No, it was a pretty good match. Toward the
Like I
end,
said, I liked it a lot. Before you say spot like the ending and stuff like that. Like you said, good way to open the show. It was cool to see Jericho come out in the Lionheart gear. Always cool to see that. Once again with Jericho, it's amazing how many times he's reinvented himself.
Mm-hmm.
Just ridiculous. And Lance Storm, really good worker. Of course, things didn't go really well in WWE, obviously.
Yeah, as Mick Foley would point out.
Yeah. But like I said, good match between these two. Good way to start the show. Two really good workers, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, so there's some great sequences and offense from both guys, and then in the end, Jericho would look to hit the Lion Salt, but Storm would get his knees up and block it, but then Jericho would grab his legs and look to apply the walls of Jericho. While he had Lance in the walls, Don Marie would get up on the apron and distract the official, and then while the official was distracted, Storm would start tapping out. Then out would come Jason Knight and Just Incredible, who would try to interfere, and Jericho would knock Jason off the apron and then do his trademark springboard dropkick to Credible, sending him off the apron. Jericho would go for a roll-up on Storm, and then Storm would kick out of the pin, and then as he kicked out, he'd send Jericho over to the ropes, and where he'd get cracked over the head with the Singapore cane by Just Incredible. And then Lance Storm would then cover Jericho for the 1-2-3 and pick up the win. So they'd have Lance Storm go over here as well.
Yeah, they would. That's fine. You know.
This would actually be Storm's final match with the WWE.
Which is for sure fine for him. My thing is, like, especially in this scenario, with a pay-per-view like this, it doesn't really matter who wins. Like,
Absolutely.
And stuff like that.
Absolutely.
You know, it's just more about the nostalgia and remembering what used to be.
Mm-hmm. And this match would end up getting 3.5 stars from both of us, both in agreement on this match. Really good.
Yeah.
And it could have been a clinic had they gotten a lot of time, but it's as you said, it wasn't so much the match. I mean, this was real. And there were some good matches on the show. Don't get it twisted. There wasn't a bad match on the show, period. But it's just it wasn't so much for going out there putting on an absolute clinic or putting on a classic. It was just more so getting the people on there, and it's just it's just a tribute show. It's just a big bash, just a big just remembrance of everything that ECW was. So following the match, they cut to one of the balconies up above the show where the Raw and SmackDown invaders would be seated once they arrived. So then we'd see the Pitbull Gary Wolf in the back, who would introduce us to a video package paying tribute to the former ECW stars of the past, who over the years had sadly passed away. That list included Rocco Rock. Yeah, even his tag team partner. That included first being Rocco Rock, one half of the Public Enemy. Unfortunately, the next year, Johnny Grunge would sadly pass away as well. So both members of Public Enemy would no longer be with us. They'd also show Terry Gordy, Mike Lockwood, also known by many as Crash Holly, the original Sheik, Michael Zansky, Pitbull, Anthony Durante, known as Pitbull 2 as well, Big Dick Dudley, and Chris Candido, who had actually passed away. I think it was a month before, because he had passed away at the young age of 33 years old.
That's crazy.
And unfortunately, sadly, since then, there's been also many other stars from ECW to have since passed, sadly. Even guys who were on the show here.
Yeah.
Which we'll probably point out later. So we'd have a three-way dance. It'd be between Yoshihiro Tajiri with Mikey Ripwreck and the Sinister Minister in his corner versus Little Guido Maritato with Big Guido, JT Smith, Tony Mamaluke, and Tracy Smothers versus Super Crazy, who is the only guy in this riding solo.
Sucked, but for him. So again, it's funny to see the whole FBI come out together again. Just stuff like that, and then you get to see all the other people. Again, this was just a show about having fun. It was all about fun.
Yeah, the only FBI guy I remember missing was Sally Graziano. That was the only one that we didn't see here. But outside of that, they liked everyone else. One
thing I love about the FBI is Paul Heyman said, we're going to pick the most stereotypical Italian names.
Yeah.
And just you got Little Guido.
Little Guido Maritato, Tony Mamaluke.
Yeah, it is the most Italian names you can possibly come up with, and it's just so funny that he did that. And obviously, that's Super Crazy. You got the BWO. Oh, no, that's later in the show. Jesus.
No, you got Tajiri, Mikey Whipwreck, and Sinister
That's
Minister.
what I meant. Sorry. I'm looking at the card right now, and I read the BWO as part of the show. Sorry about that. But,
It's okay.
But, yeah, it was fun to see them. Like I said, the whole show was just about having fun. I don't really have critiques of the matches because it wasn't really about the matches. It was just about celebrating ECW.
Yeah, well, the spot that I always think of when I think of this match was the moonsault off the balcony onto the entire FBI.
Yeah, of course. That's super crazy. That was insane.
And then you got Joey Styles going, "Oh, Dios mío."
You could even say it was super crazy.
Yeah, because he's super. He's super crazy.
I am crazy. I am super crazy.
And then also in a three-way dance, and everything to point out is this isn't like a typical like triple threat match where you it's the first pinfall or submission to victory. They actually have like eliminations in this, so like you pin one guy, then he's out, and then like you beat another guy, then you win.
Yep.
So Guido would be the first eliminated because they'd have what happened here? Oh yeah, there was Big Guido was in the ring, and then they take him out, and then Mikey Whipwreck would hit the whippersnapper off the second rope, and then then Tajiri would pin him, then he'd be out, then it'd be down Tajiri and Crazy, and they had some insane matches back in the day in ECW, absolute crazy matches. And then Crazy would go for his triple moonsaults, and then he'd hit the first one off the bottom rope, then he'd hit the second one off the second rope, and then he'd go for the third, but then he'd be knocked off by Mikey Whipwreck, and then he'd still be able to hit it in the end, and then he'd get the moonsault in 6 minutes, 12 seconds, pick up the win. It only got 6 minutes. It was a quick match and a lot of action, for sure, a lot of spots. But, it was a fun match. I liked it. I went with 3 stars. It was cool.
What did I go with here?
I think you went with 2.5.
Yeah, I didn't like it as much as you did. Again, I just didn't like it as much as you did. Overall, I didn't mind it, though. Like I said, I didn't really go into this with a super critical eye. Because even in general, ECW matches weren't always the best.
Yeah. They could be. They could be pretty good at times, for sure.
No, they could be, but I think ECW was more about the message and, what it stood for than the actual, matches itself.
Yeah. Yeah, because even, in some of their best matches, you look at the Van Dam and Jerry Lynn matches, look at all the chairs and all, the weapons and stuff that, some of their best matches would get used and stuff. So, it wasn't, traditional wrestling by any means. But it was its own style, and it was just unique. And really, I think it's, of all the, promotions of the past, I think that, of all the top ones, I think that ECW, in a lot of ways, is, maybe you could say probably, the most influential in terms of, the impact that it had after. And even at the time it did, because, you'd see WCW and then WWF, try to, take some things from ECW. A lot of the Attitude Era, I think, was shaped by, some of the stuff that was done in ECW in some way, shape, or form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so super crazy. We'd pick up the win in the three-way dance. And then next we'd have, actually, before we'd have that match, we'd actually have a video package featuring some real ECW memories. So the next we'd have a singles match between Psychosis and Rey Mysterio Jr.
Yeah. Once again, it was just cool to see 2 luchadors go out. I think they were chanting, "Put your mask on," at one point.
Yeah, that was something. That's an ECW crowd for it, because Joey Styles would say that he would take the mask off, out of respect to the fans, and then they just chant, "Put the mask on." But Joey Styles would also say that these guys wrestled each other over 500 times in their career. And yeah, back in the day, in the early ECW days when both guys were there, they would. I guess people didn't think they could pull off that style of match in the States, but they went out there and just put on a lot of great ones back in the day. So there was a couple good things I liked in this match. Overall, I thought it was a good match, but it wasn't anything like the ones they had back in the 90s. But
no.
One spot in particular, as I remember, there was the guillotine leg drop from Psychosis onto Mysterio, who was on the guardrail.